All right. Well, Jackie, Neil, it's an honor to be at this table with both of you guys. So thanks for doing this.
It was great. Thanks for the opportunity. It's always great to share something that might help others.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's always fun, and I always learn something from the other speakers, so that's always good.
Yeah, keep the relationships and the networking going, right?
Yep.
So Jackie, I want to kick this first one over to you. You had mentioned Pareto's in your presentation, and so if they haven't watched that presentation when they watch this, they should go back and watch it. But I want to talk about those traditional safety, quality, cost, delivery metrics and how you balance those specifically, because you talk about those and you talked about how you use Pareto charts to be able to help prioritize the greatest opportunity for improvement, how you prioritize. Oftentimes I'll see members say, well, should we go after the big one in our Pareto chart, or should we go after the 10 that seem like they'd be relatively easy to go after, but if we did all 10 of them, would it equal the same amount of impact as that one big one that could take us forever? And they have a hard time weighing that out. What's your advice, or how do you go about using the Pareto chart?
Yeah, so you get a little bit into analysis paralysis, right, where you overanalyze things. Part of it is the collaboration, setting up the visual management. If you look at the hierarchy we talked about, the safety, quality, delivery, taking it in order, getting the stability, but the key for prioritization is linking it to the value stream, right? Because the value stream is rolling up. Normally in a department level, you will have the same support team across multiple cells, right? And they're feeding up into the value stream. So once we stand in front of the board, so whether quality is our area, that would be the first prioritization. It's a quality, we're not going to work on delivery, right, before we get our quality organized. So we focus on quality. And then we look at, where is the area that has the most challenges, right? And then we focus down at that cell level. Now, it's pretty easy, and there's a little bit of collaboration at that point. You're talking it through together, and having those conversations, but now you've narrowed it down to one focus point. So at least the conversations are easier. Also to note, when we track our interrupters, say from a cost standpoint, we start off by just acknowledging that happened 10 times today, right? So you start off with numbers. Over time, your interrupters will become more time-based. So that interrupter, we lost 30 minutes. This interrupter happened 20 times, but it was only 5 minutes a time. So I might, as you get more mature, your metrics will talk to you more. But the key is to start rolling it up into the value stream, taking that support team, and then collaborating together. So there has to be a conversation back and forth, and then they get the alignment.
Neil, how would you add to that? So safety on the SQDC boards is a given, so let's table that. Quality, we're saying, is second, it sounds like. But how have you balanced quality with delivery, with cost, right? Yeah. As someone that is competitive and likes to win and is working with other manufacturing leaders that are competitive and like to win, how do you pick where you're going to focus and win?
Well, I always love that age-old argument, and I think from years ago, we were all trained incorrectly on how to be manufacturing leaders. And they always say is, well, if you want quality to be like this, then delivery will be down here. And I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. It's like, how do you get this up and then bring this up with it? And so I think we used to self-defeat all the time, that we would try to trade one for the other. And the reality is solve both riddles, is don't give up.
Okay, so then let's say we've cracked the code on that. Now let's switch gears and talk tech. So more and more members are just asking like, hey, what are other members doing with AI? I see robotics, I see automation. Honestly, I have seen the equivalent to like what you would see in Amazon a couple of years ago in local manufacturers in the Twin Cities. It is really cool to see the tech. How do you balance investing in robotics and automation with all your other goals? Like, how do you know where and when to invest? Neil, I'll kick this one over to you first.
Yeah, obviously automation is great. And when I go back to when I used to be in printing, is you could buy these presses that were always faster, better, everything is. And so the speeds would increase and increase and increase. But the reality is it's running faster, it's running more sheets of paper, but it's running more sheets of paper into the basket or into a box to go to the customer. So if you don't have a good process before that automation takes place, then you're just making more problems than helping yourself.
It makes me think of that old acronym I was taught around business process improvement, USA. understand the process, simplify the process, standardize it, remove the waste, right? Get rid of the variation, and then automate. Good old US of A. Anything you would add to that equation?
No, really, and I'm talking about the stability. I've seen a lot of automation, including in our own site. We've implemented automation before the stability was there. And even though the engineers are excited and motivated to get this out there, and it looks really cool, right, to have cobots and other things doing the job, but the bottom line is they often fail because of variation or underlying problems in the process. So automation has its time and its place, and you have to build that into your business strategy, right? So you might have it on a focused area, and typically for automation, I've seen it work really well in higher volume, lower changeover environments. You know, we've had a huge success with cobots on a line that almost never changes, right? And it's amazing. So there's no changeovers, there's no downtime. Once you start getting into changing, that creates more variation and less stability. So that's where I would start. Yeah.
I've had a few members say, when it came to getting that delivery of raw materials prior to like the Baltimore Bridge going down, for example, several months ago. And so I'm thinking of that because I want to talk to you just a little bit about risk. You know, as you try to prioritize where to invest, resources, where's our biggest opportunity for improvement, and you look at your supply base, you look at geopolitical issues, you look at obviously acts of God, natural disasters are hard to predict, but I mean there's some patterns there too when you look at where your suppliers are and just where things tend to happen, whether it's stateside or international. How do you guys think about risk when you assess priorities? Where does that fit into your equation? Neil, can I kick it to you first?
Sure. Obviously, that's a big problem is the supply chain. We set our goals for what we thought was best for the business. And then from there, would put pressure on purchasing to say, if we're going to make this, this has to happen. And so we would identify these are our drop dead type things that, nope, if we're going to make this, you have to find a way to figure this out. And so setting the bigger goal lets everybody else know what their marching orders are.
Okay. What would you add?
I think from if we're talking specifically about supply issues, again, I try and you're trying to create visible metrics so that in some cases like us, we've had situations where the train hits me and I found that I'm out of something, right? So you're trying to create something where you see the train coming, right? And that allows you to respond. So it's like a systematic approach. So if one of your metrics is a supplier quality issue or a supplier is not, coming in on time, you have to develop a system that the plant leadership team, you're looking at it and you're taking appropriate action at appropriate times, and that's just an example. So visualizing, not just having, on the operational side out on the production areas where you have your boards and your visual management, it's equally as important to have site metrics that show those type of things so that you're not really run down by the train before, we're in trouble and now we're down, right? So building systems, and that's part of your strategies, right, is linking systems, building systems so that they almost become self-sustaining.
You guys are making me think of like ABC inventory, right? Mm-hmm. What's absolutely critical, what's our high mover, this is a high profitable product, therefore, or PFEP is a plan for every part, like, hey, we gotta map this out, here's our bomb, we got 1,000 pieces, let's go. All that, I think, has got to be figured out with the team once you set the priority.
Exactly.
What else? Anything else you would add to assess risk? So talked a little bit about suppliers and risk there. Anything else come to mind to be able to eliminate any risk to the equation? Like from a customer perspective, perhaps the other end of the spectrum, where you're going, are these still going to be our customers 5 years from now, 2 years from now, next year? Anything else in that risk equation that you'd add?
You're looking at more like the strategic alignment to, are these products going to be obsolete? So that's part of our strategic alignment. We have a group of people that manage that process, right? So they're looking at where will these devices be in the next 10 years? Do we need to, quality. I mean, again, if you're looking at feeding that into the site metrics. So somebody from the team should have that information so you can take considerations of that as you're moving forward. Do we still want to keep this product line? What do our customers say about it? What's the forecast for the next 5 years? Is there a new device in town that's going to take over, you know?
Yeah, because typical life cycle, 7 years in med device instrumentation, so you should be mapping those out and prioritizing accordingly.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's talk about the skills gap. Are you guys losing sleep about the skills gap lately?
Hiring is always hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
When I was at my last position, we introduced one-piece flow, which really takes an entire process and breaks it down into really bite-sized pieces. So all of a sudden, I don't need to hire somebody that knows everything. They just have to be really good at this, which made hiring a lot easier. And in my current role we have a really big seasonal push here at the end of the year, and it allows us to bring people on and give them a job that they can learn very quickly and be very good at, and helps our more seasoned people just worry about the harder things rather than everything. So it's just a different way of looking at it. If you break it down into bite-sized pieces, it's easier for them to swallow.
That's an interesting way to go about it. You had mentioned in your presentation what I would consider kind of the 4 classic pieces: people, process, products, and then there's also like a plant perspective too. I think that's just, I love that mental model and way to just map things out. And you kind of said, hey, take the time, take the hour to think about biggest opportunity, investing in people. Can you share what was on that piece of paper? You got any examples for listeners to say, hey, this is where we can up our game, at least categorically?
Yeah, when I was in the people section, I would look at my supervisors or my managers and say, where are they weak? What do I have to develop there? Or what behavior do I have to change for them to just stay on the team, right? So you just list those things out, and those were the key people that I had to address. And I would also put on there, what do I have to do to my top performers to keep them happy and keep them growing? So that was my people category. In my process category, I walk the floor all day. I live on the production floor, and you can see it as like, that just isn't right. It's just not right. And so you just start listing those things. It's all those things that I'm going to get to someday. You just got to get it on a sheet of paper, and now you can't hide from it. It's right there.
Love it. So if you're looking at that sheet of paper, you've got all 3, and let's say, because some site leaders are going to be watching this, and it's their site. This site is our baby, and they're looking at our products, and they go, okay, our products are in demand and they're profitable. Like, check, feeling pretty good about that one. Not necessarily a priority. Right. And then we've got our processes and our people. How best can you balance those? I mean, it's not like you're going to just look at, I'm building 2 lists here, and there's 10 issues here and 5 issues there, therefore I'm going after the 10. How have you balanced that when you look at those 2 categories?
Yep, so typically what happens is if I'm going to a strategic offsite, it's a quarterly offsite, is all of the leaders have those clarity breaks, and we all bring our issues. So some of those issues I don't bring to that. I don't bring my personal thing that I want to get stronger, lose weight, whatever. I don't bring that to that. And I don't bring that, I want this leader to change and I want this leader to change. That's just for my own little performance. But the other ones, the process, right, and the products, that shows up at that meeting. We put it on the whiteboard and say, okay, now which ones? Now you see the 50 things that we can work on. Let's pick the ones that have the biggest impact.
Got it. Jackie, what would you add to the equation as it relates to just the skills gap and kind of the people component, and how that has helped set or even maybe reset in some cases your operational priorities?
Well, for me, the last couple of years have been an eye-opener, to be honest. Really, it's by taking a step back and realigning focus. The organisation is full of talent, right? And it's actually having the ability to see it and learn it. And we've actually, have multiple people on development plans. So I feel that, it's a great opportunity to grow when you're doing the work, right? And we've had people that, we send them back to school, they do different classes. We've had associates come up from the floor and take on engineering tasks and study part-time. Huge amount of career pathways that I see in the business now. And then obviously if it's a specialised role that we actually don't have and we really feel we need, then you go out maybe and hire it. But in general, part of the retention and excitement of being there is having your career path. right? And this process works, and it actually does showcase that. So if I focus my attention on my leaders and they become better leaders, then their supervisors will become better supervisors, and then they'll suddenly engage their team more, and then you'll start to spot the talent and the people that kind of stand out, right? And then you can put your efforts into developing those people, and then suddenly you have a bench. But if it's a particular skill that we don't have, or we're going into, artificial intelligence zone, then maybe that's a role that you would hire for. But in general, I'm very much in favor of growing the talent from within.
I love that, and I've definitely seen that from you over the
Yeah.
years. Let's wrap with kind of the environmental in comparison to the financial perspective of business. More and more these days, there are, whether it's in Minnesota or other states with other plans, environmental rules and just different regulations that it's, in some cases, it's just comply, like there's no questions asked. So,
Yeah.
But in some cases, there's a matter of to what extent are you going to comply? And so how have you had to balance kind of environmental, quality, regulatory priorities with financial priorities so that you can accomplish the best of both worlds? Neil, you want to take this one first?
Sure. So I'm fortunate enough, I work for a company that one of their core values is being responsible. And some of the definition underneath that is protect the planet, greener and cleaner whenever possible. So we have lots of efforts that go along that. We have our own private brand of clothes that is produced, right, to fit that category or to fit those guidelines. We have all our employees get 40 hours a year for volunteer time to go help clean up or help other organizations. And so it's fun to be part of that you have those it's coming to life. It's not just on a board or on the wall saying we do this. No, we actually do it.
Nice. Jackie, have you had to balance these two?
Yeah, we have, and we've had some really kind of crazy ones where some, chemicals we use are now no longer allowed, right? So it's you've got this much time to come up with a new system to this chemical. It's illegal to use it. So we've had to invest and do some pretty big lifts on those type of things. But from the normal day-to-day stuff, as we start to look at the cost and direct costs of our site, we're starting to see things like, recycling is cheaper, right? So there's a business focus to it if we do it right. There's a business focus if we map out and let people work on this and make sure we're recycling more. Our vendor will say, well, here's an opportunity for you to save money, recycle more. So it's kind of a win-win. So, and again, as we have time to focus on these things, by staying focused on things and not having 20 different things on the go, we've seen our teams have some good results like that.
Yeah, I like just framing that opportunity up as not saying, well, no, we can't hit our financial targets because, and you get a long list of, no, and really looking at it as a, well, yes, and.
Exactly.
Yes, we'll do it, and we have to do all these things in order to accomplish this.
Right.
Hey, this chemical gone.
Yeah.
This activity, it's got to happen.
Right.
So, awesome. Well, thank you both. Appreciate you being here. Yeah. And thank you for joining us for this month's webinar. As you can see, there's just a ton of value in comparing and sharing best practices with your peers. I know that you got a lot out of this Q&A. You'll get a lot out of both of those presentations. If you want to continue the benchmarking, then consider one of our peer groups to be able to join so you can do just that. Keep the networking, keep the benchmarking going, and expand your network so that you're never alone. You've always got someone to go to ask questions like I have had today at our webinar with Jackie and Neil. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month.